Welcome to the C.L.I.M.B. This is a show dedicated to helping singers, songwriters, and indie artists like you create leverage in the music business. Listen, this podcast exists because we want you to win, and you're going to need leverage whether you're an artist or whether you're a songwriter in order to move forward and to succeed. And what is leverage? It's a strategic advantage. It's the power to act effectively, to know what you need to do and to be able to move mountains and make it happen. That's why we called it the C.L.I.M.B, C.L.I.M.B, creating leverage in the music business. That's the brilliant wordsmithing of my co-host and my good friend, Mr. Brent Baxter. Brent is an award-winning hit songwriter with cuts by Alan Jackson, Randy Travis, Lady Antebellum, Joe Nichols, and more. And what I love about Brent is he helps songwriters like you turn pro by revealing how to write like a pro, how to do business like a pro, and then, gosh darn, he gets you connected right in with the pros. You can talk to some publishers and some people. So reach Brent very easily at songwritingpro.com. Once again, that's songwritingpro.com.
And I would like to introduce you to my co-host, Johnny Dwinell. Johnny owns Daredevil Production. They help you find your sound and they help you grow your audience so you can become the artist that everybody loves so you can get paid. Daredevil has worked with multi-platinum artists like Colin Ray, Tracy Lawrence, Ty Herndon, and Andy Griggs, just to name a few. You can find Johnny at daredevilproduction.com. That's production, singular with no S, and there is no S because there is no other Johnny D.
How you doing, brother?
I always feel like Ed McMahon when I do that. I want to be Carson,
but you are Carson on your episodes, and I'm your Ed McMahon. Hey-o! Half our audience has no idea what the hell we're talking about.
Not at all. Oh, well.
So, hey, we got a killer episode today. Real quick before we do that, if you haven't joined the C.L.I.M.B community, please do so on Facebook. Just search for the C.L.I.M.B community. Ask to be let in. We'll let everybody in. And if you're bad boys and girls, we'll roadhouse you. Share this content if you like it, if you find it valuable, if you think somebody could use a certain episode, share it with your industry mates and let them know it's cool. And leave a rating and review. Take a couple seconds. It makes us look legit to people who are just sticking their toe in the water. And of course, we read all the reviews on the air, so we'll make you famous. And then lastly, just subscribe. Subscribe to the podcast, and it automatically appears magically in your phone whenever a new episode comes out. And you don't even have to think about it, yo. But with that, brother, we got a killer show today. I don't know if I'm more stoked or if I'm more prideful that it was like one of my friends, but we have newly Grammy-winning engineer Zach Allen on the show with us. How you doing, Zach?
I'm great. That sounds weird to hear, but it's got a decent ring to it, I guess.
Yeah. So Zach is, I've been working with Zach. It's been a few years now.
I was thinking about that this morning. I think it's 3 or 4 years now. And it's kind of funny how it came about, but I think Dave Norris introduced us. But I knew of you for probably a year and a half. I was already a fan, if you will. I was reading your blogs and like, man, this guy's innovative. He knows what he's talking about, man. I gotta give me some of this knowledge, So I was already a fan of yours, and then when you reached out, I thought it was super cool, and we've been working, together ever since. Like I said,
that's right, man. Yeah. So for those of you listening here, Zach, in the last Grammys, which was about a month ago, if that,
yes,
from the time of this recording. So it's going to be maybe 6 or 8 weeks from the time that it drops. But won Grammy for, and please, Zach, correct me if I'm wrong, but engineering for best contemporary blues record on the new Taj Mahal and Keb Mo release called Tajmo. Am I right?
You are 100% right. Yeah, that's correct. They won it, and they got to play. They didn't, most. If you're not like top 40, you don't actually make the show. But they have a prelim show that you can stream online, and where it was at the Garden this year, which is different. Usually it's in LA. So I got to watch them, and they performed. They killed it. It was really cool. really cool.
Dude, so you know, we've been working together for 3-4 years now, and we've done a ton of recordings, some artist recordings, a ton of song demos, and we got a new program we're going to talk about at the end of the show. But man, it was just so exciting to hear. Like, dude, I was literally, when I heard about it, I was like pounding the roof of my car, like, yes. Like, couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. I mean, you've just been here grinding it forever, and I thought it'd be a great idea to bring you on this show and just, you know, get you talking about your story. Like tell us about how it happened. Like, how does one, what day did you wake up and decide you wanted to be an engineer? And then how the heck did that turn into a Grammy? Like, can you take us through that?
I would love to. Well, it's kind of funny. So I tell everybody that I went to Full Sail University in Orlando, Florida from 2006 to 2007. And I didn't go until I was 24 years old. And I had basically just been playing gigs, you know, playing cover songs for 4 hours, you know, and on the beach, you know, that guy. And, you know, tried this, tried that. Nothing ever, you know, resonated with me like songs and like music and just the emotions that it can bring out of you. So one day I heard about Full Sail, and being at that age where it's like, I don't really want to go to a 4-year college at this point. I can get in and get out. It was like 40 hours of class time a week. So I think they equate it to like 3 years of college in 12 months. So it was really a perfect fit. I was at a place in my life where I was ready to just go all in and not look back, leave everything behind. I'd lived within the same 5 blocks, even the apartment that I lived in, that I was still like right down the road from my parents. So even though I'm from Myrtle Beach originally, so it's not completely a small town upbringing, but it's like you're kind of living in a shell, if you know what I mean. Yep. So you ask when did I decide I wanted to be an engineer? So I show up the first day thinking, you know, I want to be a record producer, because, you know, I thought that the producer is the engineer, essentially. So I actually took out a massive loan for thousands of dollars and showed up living in another state to become something that I didn't even know exist. I'd never even heard the term audio engineer. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's just kind of a thing. So I was like, all right, I need to basically work 10 times harder than everybody else. I was pretty, you know, I was like most songwriters, no offense, but I was pretty computer illiterate. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know any of that stuff either. I didn't come from a computer savvy family. So I had to work, you know, 5 times as hard. Went there for a year, did really well. And then I think about month 7 or 8 of 12, I just decided I'm going to Nashville. It was something in me, like an intuition thing that just, we had talks with various career advisors, you know, LA, New York, and Nashville. They're the kind of meccas, and then Atlanta, Chicago, Austin are kind of the secondary. And me being from, you know, 2 states over, South Carolina, plus I didn't want to be too far away from my family at the time, and it's still this way, you know, financially, I know I'm going to have to get up here and intern. So I don't want to go and spend, you know, $2,000 a month on a 500 square foot, you know, studio apartment in New York. I could, you know, get somewhere a little cheaper, not get too much further in debt, and to where I even can get the plane off the ground before it even gets going, you know? So there was just a lot of things that pushed me here. And so literally I showed up. I didn't know one person in the music business here. I didn't know anybody. I just kind of, and because Belmont's here, because NTSU is here, they've kind of got the stronghold on all the opportunities for interns and for anything like that.
So you were an outsider. You were an outsider coming to Nashville.
Very, very much, you know. So somehow,
is there a more uncomfortable feeling than pulling into a town and you know nobody, and you're like, I mean, did you ever have a moment where you're like, what the hell did I get myself into? Like,
you know, no. I mean, oddly enough, I didn't, because when I literally, when I decided this is what I'm doing, it was like, that was it. And there was no plan B. You know, I was going to make it work, you know, and I know that sounds, I don't mean it to sound cocky, but I never once, sure, you have some bumps in the road, you have failures, you have days or, you know, times where clients don't, you know, not every client's going to like everything you do, just like not every publisher's going to like every song you write, you know, but that doesn't mean that a lot of people won't like what you do. So you just have to take the failures and learn from them. So, you know, I got here, I remember that first day, you know, driving around with my dad, we went down Music Row, and I'm expecting it kind of to be like it's becoming, where there's like big tall buildings everywhere. It was just a bunch of little houses, and I'm like, okay, these are just some good old, you know, down home guy. You know, I can do, you know, get with this. But anyway, I got here.
It wasn't as intimidating at first glance.
Not at first glance, and you know, I knew. This kind of sounds like a Rocky movie or something, but I had my dad drop me off in like a kind of sketchy apartment, you know. I just got the first place I could find. I purposely wanted to come home every day and see this crappy apartment, and use that as a reminder why I'm doing this, you know. Just train the mind. Train the mind beyond anything, you know, because man, this sucks. I had to sit at home on Christmas Day in my 1-bedroom crappy apartment by myself, because one of the first gigs I got up here was a Guitar Center, you know, which some people can scoff at, but I was very thankful for that. And I met some great friends to this day that I still, you know, value and everything. And, but anyway, and I got to learn some stuff because, like I said earlier, I was so far behind from a technical standpoint. I had to be around some guys that at least kind of knew what they were talking about. Like, you couldn't even buy Pro Tools in the music store in my town. Like, I'd never even heard of Pro Tools. I mean, it was so crazy how late I was to the game on all that. So, anyway,
well, Zach, this is Brent. I was going to cut in for a second.
Hey, Brent,
I think there are a couple important lessons here. One, you came to town and you didn't know anybody, and this is a business where a lot of people use that as an excuse. Well, you got to know somebody. Well,
absolutely,
you got to know somebody.
That's right.
You know, you got to know somebody. So what did I do? I got to know somebody. And the other thing is, you didn't let yourself get too comfortable. No. I mean, that made me think of when I was living in Little Rock after grad school, and I knew I wanted to eventually get to Nashville and do the songwriting thing. And I took an entry-level customer service type job in a cubicle at a telecommunications company. And I could have worked for some raises and for some promotions and stuff, and I just couldn't quite do it because I didn't want to start making more money and get too comfortable. For one thing, I didn't like the gig, but the more money I knew I was going to make at that, the more kind of comfortable I was going to be, the harder it was going to be to leave that. So I can relate to what you're saying. Like, I didn't have the little sketchy apartment, but I did have a little apartment. But I'm saying, I'm not going to get too comfortable because I don't want that to distract me from my goal.
Yeah. I mean, if you go down that road, then it gets harder and harder and harder to get out of it,
Right. Golden handcuffs. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Hard to get off the pole.
Exactly. And I mean, I think one thing, you said, with, I got to know people. I mean, whatever you're doing in this industry, whether you want to be you're producing albums, or you're recording albums, or you're writing songs for people, or you're an artist trying to get a deal, at the end of the day, you have to sell yourself. You have to convince whoever you're trying to sell to that they need to, buy into this. Sometimes, not always with physical money, but they need to take an investment in that relationship. And, so it's just the way to do that, or the best way to do that, I found, is to qualify and know your audience, and that's basically what I did and still do to this day. Because I mean, I'm not, in my mind, and I hope I'm right here, but in my mind, like, I'm just getting started. Like, I feel like I'm just getting to the point where I'm like, this is kind of the beginning. The first 10 years have been just everything to get to this point. And now I can start kind of mingling with the real cats that are really doing stuff and, pulling the strings, so to speak. So
expanding your possibilities, expanding your opportunities. Sure.
qualifying your audience. If you're a songwriter and like, okay, you say you make a list of 10 songs that are on the radio that you're liking. Okay, I write songs like this. I dig it. Okay, well, who's singing these songs? Who wrote these songs? Most of the time, it's with the artist these days.
Mm-hmm.
So Miranda Lambert, who's the other two people that wrote this? With find out who they are, then find out who their publisher is, and then go and look at that publisher's website, and then make a list of all those people, and then find out when those writers are playing writers' nights, and then go. You just gotta, mm-hmm. I don't want to get. I hate the word networking because I think you can throw that word in the trash can all times. Build relationships. That's the difference. Take an investment. Like if somebody comes to you and is like, yeah, my kid, whatever their name is, remember that kid's name. And next time you see him, hey man, how's, Audrey? I'll just say Audrey because that's my new kid's name. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And just by doing those little things, it shows that person that, man, he's really cares about me, and he's not just in it to try to suck everything out of me. He wants to genuinely cares about me as a person, mm-hmm. So that's I think I get a lot of kids, just on the engineering front. Hey man, what mic do you use and how do you do that? And it's like, man, that other stuff that I just spent a few minutes talking, that's way more important. You know what I mean? Like I've gotten so much more work. Obviously, I know how to make stuff sound good and I can run it fast, but I've got way more work because of the relationships I have. And even more than that, I get more work out of being a musician myself, understand musicality, than like, oh man, he uses this crazy mic trick, whatever. I mean, that stuff's just, pizzazz,
So when you, what was the first engineering gig that you got? Where was it an internship or how did that manifest itself?
So after, as I mentioned, I did a couple like production labor things, worked at Guitar Center for a while. And it was 1st of December or maybe late November of that same year. So I got up here in July. I struggled, was just nothing for 6-7 months. And I finally randomly got 2 emails from the Full Sail career development department. So apparently like 2 studios had reached out to them and say, here's opportunities for internships. One was at Starstruck, which is Reba's place. And coming here with stars in your eyes, you drive by it, it's like, whoa, like that's
awesome.
Mm-hmm. And I've still never worked there to this day. I've like tracked in like I've tracked in Blackbird, Ocean Way, Tracker, like every big room. I've never worked there, oddly enough. So there was that, and there was another place called Love Shack. So I made a resume up, and one thing to note in the first sentence, the 1-sentence objective up top, I changed the name of like to receive an internship at a studio, and specifically put the name of the studio I was sending the resume to. Mm-hmm. Never heard back from Starstruck, so still waiting on that call. But the guy at Love Shack, which is like it's a little vocal overdub room, is still there. I think it's on 18th. Called me and he said he had 5 resumes in the pile, and because I specifically he had went to Full Sail too, but because I specifically notated the studio, that's why he picked my name. I mean, how random is that, but it's just those attention to detail and just going that little bit extra, without being a suck up or anything. It's just like, something that I did. So anyway,
Isn't that something you want from your engineer, the attention to detail and doing that little extra?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you, you have to, like 100% is just not enough in this business. I don't care what facet of, because there's too many guys that are given 100%. You have to go 110, 115,
That's a good point right there. Boom.
I'll skip it. I'm going to skip way ahead till about 3 months ago and we'll backtrack, but just a quick story. I work with Keb. He's a very dear friend, obviously, at this point. And
Keb Mo.
Yes, absolutely. 4-time Grammy winner. He's like a Jedi of wisdom. Every day I walk away with something new in life, beyond all the musical stuff I get from him. But so I'm I think I had one of these like slam sessions or something. I was, it was a 12, 13, 14 hour day. I live in Hermitage, which is about 10 miles, 11 miles directly east of downtown. He lives all the way in Bellevue, kind of out by Loveless Cafe, like
10 miles the other
opposite
way.
side of town.
Oh yeah.
So it's 40 minutes. I was working in Music Row. So I had a session with him the next day. And we kind of have his studio set up to where, everything's parked, but sometimes, we'll do a horn section. I mean, we've done small string sessions in there. So, stuff needed to be turned over. And I'd been working 14 hours, but I left the session. I drove all the way out there and I drove back. And when I walked in, he looked at me and said, "Zach Allen, you're willing to do what unsuccessful people are not willing to do." And I was just like, golly, that feels pretty good, So
I'm stealing that line.
That's good.
But dude, it's like every day that guy's got like some new knowledge dropping, and it's just like I'll like write stuff down for song ideas and all kinds of stuff because he is just so ahead of the game and understands the power of the mind and what you can accomplish, with your mind, and just by having the right mindset, having a positive mindset. So anyway, where were we before I went? First studio, and like, how did I break in? So anyway, started at Love Shack for about 3 weeks. And as you guys know, the town pretty much shuts down during Christmas and, for like a week and a half, 2 weeks. So I said, "Hey man, I'm going to, I'll go see my family. And you do the same. I'll call you first week of the year." Great. Call him up. And he's like, "Hey man," I was like, "When do you want me to come back to work?" He's like, "Well, I got some interesting news. I took a job at the tracking room." And I was just like, my heart just sank because it's like, I've been up here for 8 months just begging for any opportunity, and he's gone. And I was like, and I'd hit it off with him. He was like, "I'll tell you what, call the guy who runs the studio and see if he'll take you. And if he won't take you in a week, call me back."
The tracking room guy?
The tracking room guy said that to about the guy that was at Love Shack, the place that I,
Gotcha.
So anyway, follow. I know it's a lot of moving parts, and I'm not going to drop any names because Anyway, so guy at Love Shack did not call me back, and I went to the tracking room, and in 6 months I was doing starting to assist and all that kind of stuff. And this goes back. The mentality with that, and I guess it's a little different with a songwriter or artist, but I think it's just the whole thing of doing whatever it takes. But there was a guy, and I apologize, I forget his name, but he produced all the Kansas stuff back in the 70s, like "Carry On My Wayward Son," and, and "Dust in the Wind" and all that. So he spoke at Full Sail, and he said a thing like as an internship, you're going into an internship, and he's like, "Make yourself irreplaceable." Like, if you see a coffee cup, get it. If you see just do it before you have to be asked, to the point when, "Oh man, my internship's up." They're like, "Well, who's going to do this?" It's like a mind thing. It's like, you make.
That's how Lexi became my digital marketing manager.
You just go
as an intern and literally did so good that it became a fear of mine. Like, I got to hire her. Yeah. Because I can't afford to lose her now. Like, she's just inside my head. Like, sometimes it's creepy. You know what I mean?
There's no going back, and that's what I did. And sure enough, I got an opportunity. I mean, to go back, what was my first session? I never forget. It was a background vocal session on a random artist doing an album with Billy Davis. Billy, I think, Johnny, and Dan. Yeah. Dan Mitchell, who was the studio manager at the tracking room, who gave me the opportunity to do it. He wrote, "If you're going to play in Texas, you got to have a fiddle in the band." I still love Dan to this day, and I'm forever grateful for him. But that was it, and that's what I tell kids a lot too. How do I break in? Well, man, don't worry about running a 64 channel console, because nobody's going to let you do that right off the cuff. Learn how to tune a vocal, or learn how to, do these little things that, like, I might, might not mind delegating, you know what I mean? And build up from there. Show that you're trustworthy and show that you're willing to put in the time and do a good job and learn from what's maybe not good and then build up to that. So that's essentially kind of how it happened. And I ended up, went on. I mean, I had a 6-year run at the tracking room, ended up getting to a point where I was running the entire place, like doing the billing, doing the booking, was head engineer, was producing project on the side, was just absolutely like full steam ahead. And then broke out on
by the way, just to let me interject for a second. So tracking room, for those of you outside of town who don't know what it is, I've recorded a bunch of projects there, is one of the premier facilities in Nashville. I mean, it's the room is amazing. What, they got an SSL board in there?
SSL 9000J. It's a 7,000 square foot facility. So I think I definitely think it's the biggest as far as one studio, because they could have probably put 3 rooms in the building, but they just built one. Like their ISO booths are bigger than most, like, I mean, it's
control rooms. Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. And they got a rock room. This is what gets me going, right? They got a rock room in there, and it's a rock room. It's a room with rock walls, and it's huge, and it's so reflective, and that's where the drums go. And you got to bring in baffles, right, to calm it down, to calm the reflections down. But you can cut a rock record there, brother. Let me tell you, come on, like it sounds so good. Like,
it's really cool, and once I had that in, I mean, there was no looking back, from there, because it's like, and I always looked at it. That was my vision, when I left school, was like, okay, how do I break in? I've got to find a studio to work at, because I need to learn what the hell I'm doing, first of all, and B, I need to build my network, and that's exactly what I did. And I ended up having a 6-year run before I broke out on my own now, which is almost 4 years ago. And what can you say? But it was very, as awesome as that was, it was so much more refreshing to get out into the world once you get to a point and okay, I'm more than just a great studio. Like I can go in any studio, and because I have a vibe about me, I have a way that I handle, or I think I do. Maybe I'm not that cool. I don't know, but I have a way that
You're that cool. I'm here to attest that you're that cool.
I have a way that I handle my business, and like, it's like I'm going into this, and there's certain things that need to take place. Like I hate, and it's just the littlest details. I hate when I come into a session and I've had like some interns sitting on, and the cables are just in a rat's nest. It's like, take some pride in yourself and coil them up nice and neat. But pretend Taylor Swift is here every day. And because if somebody's coming from out of town and they're investing all this money and time, they're giving you their music. That's something I take very seriously, because I mean, that's their children, I mean, like I write songs too. I've written, I was looking the other day, I've written like 80 songs. Probably the first 30 were terrible because I wasn't here and I didn't know what I was doing yet. But like that's their children, man. And you have to handle that like a child and do everything you can to make sure and create a fun experience. First of all, I'm not into like belittling artists, and I want it to be fun. I like to teach when I need to teach. I just try to always serve whatever the situation is. Always look at who's writing the check that day, and be as involved or as not involved as I need to be.
So Brent, I gotta tell you a quick story here. So. Mm-hmm. On one of the demo slams that we were doing, right? It's like it was already a bad day, okay? Because some days you have a bad day, and so I think some of the players got there late. There must have been a traffic accident or something on the 24th, so people were there like half hour late, 45 minutes late, and we're doing 30 songs, so it's like crazy, right? Like we don't have time to be late, and so already the stress factor comes up. And then I remember specifically the friggin' hard drive went down, right?
Oh, man.
So I just remember thinking one thing, and this is it. Like, this is the ability to handle to handle a crisis, right? I remember thinking two things to myself. I've never seen Zach as stressed out as I see him now, but you wouldn't know it, like, unless you knew Zach, right? Like, Like it was just all smooth. And before anything happened, he got it switched over and we're back on track and we're working again and we were trying to catch up time. But it was like, I was like, whoa, that was huge. That was a big deal. Right. And then, but Zach just like, is as cool as you can be. But I could tell, because I know Zach, I could tell he was stressing. I'm like, man, this is crazy. But you wouldn't have known. Like if you're in there, if you didn't know Zach, you would have known. Dude.
I think that day, that's the only time that's happened where the hard drive.
You're pissed.
Well, it just completely took a dump, and you got thousands of dollars, gone. That
Literally.
Time's gone. Yeah. Those songs are gone. I want to say that it was pretty early on, so we didn't lose that much. But it's like, I don't have time to ponder on that. Where are we going now? Okay, here's what I got to do. I got to make a new session. I got to find, I got to make all my tracks, because when you're doing that many songs in a day, you have to essentially you have everything ready to go. Like I already have my tracks made for any overdubs that are going to happen, where I just like arm them and go. They're all routed to the headphones the way they need to do. So you're just like, you don't have time to ponder on that. You have to, and you can take that as like with any of your audience, don't ponder on a meeting that didn't go well. Why didn't it go well? Okay, now how do I improve? How do I get to the next step? What can I learn from it? You just have to fix it as fast as you can. And people, clients see that you're doing everything you can to like, all right, make this go right, and that's what it's all about, really,
So how'd you end up hooking up with Keb?
Okay, so another shout out. I did a record on this girl from Germany. Like one thing at the Tracking Room, they did like one of those like American Idol type shows at the Tracking Room, where it was down to like, it was all girls, but it was down to like 7 or 8 of them. They came and filmed, and they wanted me on screen or whatever, and so through that, some guy, the girls manager reached out to me and was like, I want to come do it. We ended up doing 2 records. With the second record we did was really cool. I got to work with 2 of the guys that were in a 90s band that if you're young, you probably don't remember. They're called Blind Melon, which was one of my...
Oh, yeah.
No Rain, baby. No Rain.
Well, Brad who's a bass player. He actually wrote No Rain, not the singer. And so he played, and one of their guitar players, Chris Thorne. And then the original idea was to get all the band, because their singer had passed away, and just have them as their backing band. We couldn't get 2 of the guys. So I asked Brad, who's the bass player, who's the drummer you like? He's like Dave Cruzen, who, as you know, you may or may not know, but he the original drummer of Pearl Jam, played on 10, only one of the greatest rock records ever. I was like, yeah, that guy, that'll work. And we got to camp out for 5 days. So it was a project that was really close to my, my heart. I thought it was really cool. So I took it and I started, like 1 week, I had a week and I was just on what's called Rofax, which for your audience, Rofax is a subscription thing you can get, and a lot of publishers and songwriters and stuff will send, hey, this guy is looking for this type of song, kind of thing, so that publishers can submit to the right people. Anyway,
how your song wanted to add.
Exactly. But they have like a, kind of like a Yellow Pages thing. So I'm going through this, again, qualifying my audience and trying to find every single person in Nashville, which at the time, it's 2012, it was even less rock than it is now, but trying to everybody that might, under all those emails I sent, this one woman, her name's Lee Brannon, and she's like my mother to this day, or my big sister. She was like, yeah, I'll listen to it. She listened to it, she liked it, and immediately she just started plugging me in with people. Like, she right off the bat, I think I did a demo session with his name, Radney Foster and Daryl Brown, and I remember that because that was the first day I worked with her. I actually proposed to my wife that day. So it's kind of a big day. And then, she plugged me in with this guy, Steve Schnurr, here in town, who's he's like the head of EA. Like he decides every song that's going in every EA game. So he's kind of a big deal. And but she had been working with Kev. Kev moved out here in 2010, and they had just started the Tajmo record. It was very early on, and he also had a live record going on. So he kind of had two guys that he used, and one of them I think got a publishing deal, and the other one, Casey Wasner, who's on the Tajmo record too. He did the initial stuff. He went and Kev was like, "You go and work on the live record at your studio," and like a door open, and I went out there, and I think the first day I did horns, like a horn session, which is he's totally different than anybody I've ever worked with, he has his process, and you don't always understand where it's going, but it's not my job to understand. It's my job to get what he's trying to get, But it went good, and I've been out there ever since. When he's not on the road, I'm usually out there. I'll be out there tomorrow. He's about to go to Africa on Sunday for 2 weeks. He's doing this, guitar lessons for kids. I mean, that's the kind of guy he is. He just gives back so much to the world. He's just a really, really special person, and there's nobody like him in town. He's kind of like the cool blues cat, So. Anyway, that's how it happened.
That you didn't just pull into town and like people started knocking on your door to give you engineering opportunities?
Man. They're like, yeah, you got to record. You got a degree. You must be something, No.
And by the way, just do these 3 projects, and then right at that door over there is a Grammy.
Yeah. No. So it's crazy how. I don't know. It just kind of it's been like 11 years I've been up here, but it all seems like, maybe 3 or something. It's just kind of a blur, but I entrenched myself so much into it. And it's funny when people say, man, I wish I knew what you knew. And it's like, well, spend a decade, like 90% of your days doing it for 10 hours a day. And then you will, And it's like, people want things, but they're not willing to put in the work, like you want to be able to write great songs. We'll write 100 songs, like Tom Hainbridge, who's a client of mine who's super talented writer, does all the Buddy Guy records and works for Skinner and all these people. He was like, he'll do songwriting clinics and he'll say, so you wrote 100 songs and nothing got picked up. We'll write 100 more, and that's it. Put in the time, man. And don't be everybody, especially younger cat, they just want it now. And it's like, man, it's a privilege to be able to be in the music business. And you're not doing us a favor. It's such an honor to be able to do this for a living that you have to treat it that way. I think, Yeah, I mean, nobody's handing out free rides, so.
That's right, man. Well, Zach, I just love that you got the Grammy, man. It just was like one of the best days ever for me, just because I was like, yes, like that's awesome, and I'm always, happy to see you when we come in the studio for the demo slams and everything. And I know I talked to you a bit about this before, as well as like Buddy and some of the other guys, but we've got this song demo scholarship program now and I need to thank you for agreeing to sort of put in the extra time here for this. But, as you can imagine, we have a regular sort of massive workload of songs for publishing companies, songwriters, stuff like that. And we do them in a day because the guys that we're working with guys like you, Zach, guys like Brent Mason, guys like Bobby Terry, Buddy Hyatt, these guys, they do major records, and but we all get together for a day and do it's a good hang. Everybody gets along with each other, and we do these tons of songs. And we kind of cooked up this idea to give back a little bit and say, how can we help some songwriters outside of the Nashville, maybe that, or maybe just newly to Nashville that feel like they're outsiders? How can we help them get access to this kind of a talent, but without having to spend a virtual fortune to make it like major label money, right? To make it happen. And so we kind of cooked up this idea of the song demo scholarship program where we got everybody to say, hey, we're going to do this whole workload that we already have. And I want to add 4 more songs to it. And we're going to pick songwriters and give them the opportunity to record their songs with the Grammy-winning engineer with, talent like Brent Mason, James Mitchell, Mark Fain, Lonnie Wilson, Buddy Hyatt, Bobby Terry. Google these names. These are the top cats in town, and be able to afford to do it and be able to get that discount, that volume discount, like that the publishing companies get. And so it meant a lot to me that you agreed to do that, and that you're like, hey man, I'll throw in a little extra time and try to make that happen, and see if we can't help somebody else get a leg in, man. So I wanted to say thank you for that.
Oh, it means a lot to even be the guy, to be asked to do it, It's like we're only, you have to give back. You have to, if I get in the car and die, man, I want to know tonight, I want to know that like I gave some knowledge or gave people opportunities, because like nobody gets where they're going without help, So you have to, like, once you get to a certain place, you have to, start giving that back, and you reap what you sow. You're going to get out of this world what you put into it. I firmly believe that, and so always glad to lend a helping hand. Now I can't benefit myself out of business, as Ken has said before, to steal a line from him. But I'm glad
people still getting paid. Yeah, people still getting paid, but they're not. You're not going to get those cats and you and the facilities that we will work out of for one song. For an affordable rate on one song. It's just. It's a little crazy, but that means a lot to me, brother. It really does. And if you, we pick on this program, we pick 4 songwriters every month, and we bring them in there. So if you want to be one of those, let us know. Email your song to info@daredevilproduction.com. Again, production is singular. There is no S. info@daredevilproduction.com. Put in the subject line song demo scholarship program, and you'll be considered. And it's very subjective. The Daredevil team pours over the songs, and we like a good story too. We're all about the underdogs, man. So if you can, if you feel like you want to write something why you should be considered over somebody else this particular month, then God bless. Go and do it. It might be the way Zach put that studio name on his resume that got him that first internship. It could be the one that says, hey, we're going to choose you, and we can come and make this happen. You don't have to be here to do it. We Facebook Live everything. In fact, I would venture to say that most of the scholarship winners are they're from out of town. They're from overseas. They can't. It's too cost prohibitive to get to Nashville. But you can access this talent, and there's different sort of. We tried to set it up to make it make sense. If you're an artist or a songwriter that has a home studio and all you can sing and you can mix, but you can't access talent like this and get these kind of tracks that Zach's going to set up for you and that we can produce for you, then if you just need the tracks, you're going to spend less than somebody who needs a vocal and pro vocalist and somebody who needs a pro mix as well. But Zach's the man on the mixes for me, brother. You always come through on that. We got nothing but happy clients, and it's just an honor to work with you. And thanks for giving your time on this podcast, because I know you're really busy, especially now after the Grammy. And I know that it just means the world to me to come in and know, like, I don't ever worry when I come in with clients and I come in with artists, and we've done a couple of those projects together. I just like you are not the factor, right? Like that's eliminating all of that worry out of my head, because I know that session's going to run smooth and we're going to get what we need. You're going to make sure you remember stuff that I forget because I tell you up front, like, hey, don't forget, you got to do this track. I'm like, oh crap, that's right. Okay. So it's just a pleasure to work with you, man. Thanks for taking the time.
No, man, thanks so much. One thing, it's like nobody's ever going to remember everything that you say, but they're always going to remember how you make them feel. And that's what I try to bring to any session, when people walk in, like I said. So, but thank you both for having me. I've been a fan of the show. I catch it when I can. And, to your audience, listen to what these guys say. They know what they're talking about for sure.
Hey Zach, if somebody wants to work with you, man, how can they, how does one get a hold of a Grammy-winning engineer to bring on their project?
Okay. Yeah. So I have a website. It's Red Armor Productions. That's REDARMOR Productions. And it is plural.com. My email, there's a contact link there. Also, Zach at redarmorproductions.com. And that's ZACH. I'm on Instagram at Zach Allen Audio, and you can find me on Facebook. I'm friends with you, Johnny. I think I'm Zach Allen .37, which is the default thing they gave me because I think I'm the 37th Zach Allen.
But you're the only Grammy winning Zach Allen.
But you're number one in our hearts.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well,
thanks so much again.
Yeah, thanks.
You got it, buddy. That brings us to the end of another killer episode of The C.L.I.M.B. Remember to share it if you think this information will help your friends. Join the C.L.I.M.B. community on Facebook, and there's lots of people helping other people there, and Brent and I are weighing in on everything on a daily basis as well. Just ask to be let in, and we'll let you in. Subscribe to this if you like these shows. They'll magically appear in your phone on your podcast player. And last but not least, hey, take a couple seconds and leave a rating and review. It helps us look legit to people who are just finding out about us for the first time, and we will make you famous and read your name on the air. So this podcast exists because we want you to win. So keep on climbing,
and we'll see you at the top.